You're listening to the Trading Bear Podcast. This is episode 44, The Daily Show.
Mystery player. Position.
Defender.
Start price.
34p.
Current price.
98p.
PB.
12p.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
11.9%.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining in. In today's news, Manchester United will not be playing in the Champions League next year as they succumb to a 1-1 draw to long since relegated Huddersfield. Arsenal practically await the same fate, at least domestically, after they too could only manage a 1-1 draw to lowly opposition in the shape of Brighton. This left Chelsea to guarantee themselves a Champions League spot after seemingly the only one of four to be able to win a game in the last few weeks. You ever remember that group, Tottenham, losing a day earlier to Bournemouth after going down to 9 men after Son Heung-min became the first Korean to be sent off in the Premier League. Inspiring stuff. Elsewhere, ahead of the second leg Champions League semi-final between Liverpool and Barcelona at Anfield, Roberto Firmino and Ousmane Dembele have been ruled out for their respective clubs, with Salah facing a race against time after his substitution on Saturday against Newcastle due to concussion. And lastly, Diego Godin will reportedly become Inter Milan's highest paid player when he moves from Atletico Madrid in the summer. The 33-year-old will sign a 3-year contract worth €128,000 a week to place him ahead of current stars Nangolan and want-away striker Mario Icardi. Nothing more Serie A then than making an aging centre-back your highest paid player. On the subject of highs, let's go into today's risers and fallers now. For today's riser, we head back into the EPL and the Champions League race. By the very nature of the player rising, you therefore know it must be a Chelsea player, and it's a player that, without one stumbling block, could be a great buy or hold on Football Index. It's Chelsea's English international midfielder Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now 23, he's no longer one that can be described as a potential player, and now needs a run of games to show what talent he quite clearly possesses, as shown in the limited opportunities he's been given by Sarri this season, with most coming in the Europa League. He rose 14p today on the back of scoring Chelsea's first goal in their 3-0 home win over Watford, and in the process scoring a hugely respectable PB score of 220. The player, who now sits at a price of £1.82, previously hit a peak PB score of 298, and given a full 90 minutes, definitely has it in him to score 200 plus scores on a more regular basis. The trouble Loftus-Cheek has, however, is twofold. The first being the same that Hudson-Odoi faced up until recently, with the fact that the general public seemingly rated him more than the much maligned Sarri, who incidentally could well go to finish the season winning the Europa League and finishing third in his first season, despite the well-documented cooling of his head. Secondly, and this could well be the reason Sarri doesn't pick him more, is that he faces a big problem with chronic back spasms, which has caused him to follow a personalised fitness and training programme to maximise his game time. For more on this, head over to my Twitter, @TradingBear1, where you'll find the link to the article on this written by the Guardian newspaper. So while Ruben Loftus-Cheek's back may be falling apart, which player's price is falling apart today? Well, we stay with the theme of the English Champions League race, or in this case the concluded race, where we end up in Manchester, and once more discussing the rise and fall of Paul Pogba's price. On the back of United's continuing limp league displays since Solskjaer was made permanent, Pogba's price has dropped 17p today to sit at a price of £7.52. On a personal level, as opposed to a team level, Pogba was actually a little unlucky against Huddersfield today, twice hitting the crossbar, which had one, or indeed both, gone in, we could well be talking about Pogba in today's riser section. Such are the fine lines in Football Index sometimes, especially for those premium players. His 1-month price graph makes interesting reading, as displayed on my Twitter, forming an M-shaped pattern, which shows quite a high degree of volatility and range in his price, which is fairly unusual for a premium player to show such swings in a short period of time. One thing is for sure though, whether that M-shape stands for Manchester, Madrid or mediocrity, it definitely stands for media dividends. Currently lying seconds behind Eden Hazard in today's media dividend rankings, Pogba is sure to sweep up an awful lot of those first to fifth payouts come June and July, and I predict the buying action once again to return once the season finishes. It may even start earlier than that, with a home game against Cardiff to finish with next weekend, but after today's inept performance, Who knows? We go into this episode's prospect player now, a player who I feel could do well in the near future and attract buys. For this episode, we head into one of the wealthiest cities in Italy, and indeed the city that recently ranked first out of 107 in Italy for quality of life. It's the city of Bologna. The Rossoblu, or the Red and Blue, currently lie 15th in Serie A, 3 spots and 5 points ahead of the relegation places with 4 games left to play. And it's a player currently in the midst of a purple patch that we go to, more specifically 25-year-old midfielder Eric Pogba. Scoring 3 in the last 4, the Chilean penalty taker, who has a 100% record from the spot this year, scoring 5 out of 5, has 3 consecutive Monday night games to look forward to, against the likes of AC Milan, Parma and Lazio. Combine those single-day fixtures, Pogba's recent form with the team's own form, which includes recent 3-0 victories over Sampdoria and Chievo, and you can start to see why Bologna's Eric Pogba is the episode's prospect player. Let's get into some of your questions now then. This episode's first question comes via Twitter, with FI Profit Monkey writing, "Hi there, I've been on FI for just over a month now and have invested £200 to get a feel for the platform. Have you got any advice for £500 investment over the summer?" Well, firstly, when looking at investment in a serious amount of capital, always do a wide range of research and look at information from multiple sources, whether it be podcasts, blogs, national articles, or even stat-based websites, for example. And by serious capital, I mean anything that you personally would consider serious, whether that be £50, £500, or £5,000. We're all different, but the same rules applies. Always do your research. Secondly, I think it's great that you put in £200 to get a feel for the platform first of all, understanding how the mechanics of Football Index works. I myself did exactly the same thing before investing further. Now you're at a stage you wish to invest a larger sum, you have 3 options. And remember, this is just my opinion, always cross-reference with other sources. You have option 1, high risk, option 2, medium risk, and option 3, low risk. Let's start with option 3, low risk. I would use the £500 and split it into 2 times £150 in 2 MB players, such as Pogba and Kane. The next £100 I would put into PB players next year, someone like Kai Havertz for example, with the remaining £100 into a young English player who is getting game time currently, someone like James Maddison at Leicester for example. Option 2, medium risk, the same MB amount as low risk option, so £300 in 2 players of your choice, then a slightly cheaper PB player such as Lucas Digne or Julian Brandt, with the final £100 into a young player with capital appreciation chance, someone like a James Justin at Luton Town for example. The third option, the highest risk, is to spend the £500 on only 2 or 3 young players who during the summer suddenly appear after training with the first team and playing in pre-season friendlies. These names won't be known yet, but you're looking like a Brian Gill at Seville or a Diego Lainez at Betis for example. But only putting your money into 2 or 3 players is extremely risky and hence why that is a high risk option. Now I would personally favour the medium risk option, but ultimately it comes down to the individual trader and their own trading style that fits their personality, attitude towards risk and the time allowance on the platform. The second question comes from an email from Luke Hardwell, with Luke writing, "I noticed RB Leipzig have now qualified for the Champions League next year. Do you think there's value in their players? Poulsen, for example, has scored 15 goals, just 1 less than the much-hyped Timo Werner, and is just 1 year older at 24. What is your opinion, please?" Well, I agree, Luke. For whatever reason, outside Timo Werner, as you mentioned, who possibly may be moving to Bayern in the summer, there appears to have been a lack of interest or awareness on Leipzig players. Much has been said and written, and rightly so, about the likes of Jovic and Kostic at Frankfurt, Torgan Hazard at Mönchengladbach, and a host of players at Leverkusen, headlined by Kai Havertz and Julian Brandt, but little mention the team that sits above all of them and behind the main two of Bayern and Dortmund. Let's start then with the coach Ralf Rangnick, who is the man that brought success to the now well-known German team Hoffenheim. Rangnick achieved back-to-back promotions back in 2006-07 season in order to send Hoffenheim to the Bundesliga, or the equivalent of going from League One to the Premiership in 2 years in England. He then had short one-season spells at both Schalke and Leipzig, before taking a break for 2 years before rejoining Leipzig in July last year. He's obviously a talented coach, capable of getting the best out of young players. Outside of Timo Werner then, players to look out for next year include Tyler Adams, the young American centre mid, fellow midfielder Amadou Hadera, who joined in January from partner club RB Salzburg in Austria, and recent double goal hero, 22-year-old centre-back Kloisterman. The youngsters are backed up by a senior supporting cast, including the likes of Haustenberg in defence, Campbell, Sabitzer and Forsberg in midfield, along with Poulsen, who you mentioned, up top. If they could retain Arsenal's 18-year-old on loan midfielder Emile Smith-Rowe, and more importantly keep him fit, then they could be a real force next year, both domestically and in Europe. And that's it for this episode. You can download and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify and Podbean. Head over to the website to send in a question, tradingbearpodcast.com. Alternatively, you can find me on Index Gain or Twitter under the name Trading Bear. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for the Mystery Player.
Mystery player. Position.
Defender.
Start price.
34p.
Current price.
98p.
PB.
12p.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
11.9%.
Trading Bear. Today's mystery player was Everton fullback Lucas Digne.